Good morning. Let's do some Tai Chi. So we're going to work on low punch some more today. We spent our last practice session on parts of low punch, and so we're going to try to wrap that up this morning. Well, let's get started with the good old bear. The rear crown of the head connected to heaven with the open body hanging down from it. Your feet connected to earth, bubbling wells open to the ground, feeling the feet quiet on the ground. As you shift and turn, the feet are not perturbed. All 3 points of the tripod in each foot, staying connected to the ground. Letting the mind be calm in the dantian. So let the center of your awareness be in your dantian. The motion unfolds around that center. The belly is relaxed, the whole abdomen is soft, and your awareness is centered in your center. Feeling your arms move through the air as if it had the substance of water. So feel especially the heart of the palm of the hand that's in front. Feel the air parting right in front of that hand. So you can feel the air going through your fingers. You feel the air against the heart of the palm. And then you can extend through the whole arm, so you feel the whole arm moving through the air as if it were a fluid, which it is, as if it had the substance of water. Letting the whole body relax. Letting go of any unnecessary tension. A couple more swings. Great. And since we're going to work on low punch and the walking 70-30s and all that, I wanted to spend a couple minutes with the deer too, because that one gets us moving in and out of 70-30s. So we start with our feet in the V, and then you step for a 70-30 and shift into it and display your antlers. And part of why we start with the feet in a V here is so that you don't have to worry about turning the back foot in, which is actually analogous to when we're doing brush knees. You sit back and you turn your foot to the corner so that you can then do the next move and you don't have to change the back foot. So, at the beginning of the form, doing ward off left or something, we do need to turn the back foot in. But for this, you don't. Start with the feet in the V. The rear foot will already be in place. And pay special attention to stepping with the front foot pointed exactly straight ahead and appropriate width, so you can really get a good 70-30. And then there's these complications of the arms, which will lead your waist past square, but that still needs to ride on top of a good foundation of a good 70-30. So we'll get to practice going in and out of 70-30s a whole bunch, and I want you to primarily pay attention to the steps, the stance, the shape of the 70-30. So doing the deer, gathering, displaying your antlers, and back. Where you put this foot is going to be the new back foot. Where you put the foot is going to be the new back foot. And make sure you step with the front foot pointed exactly straight ahead and a good width and length. So you're practicing going in and out of 70-30s. Of course, you've got your little deer smile. You feel the motion unfolding through the body. And it all rides on top of a good platform of a solid 70-30. Each time aware of where your feet are going when you step back and when you step forward. Coming back and going forward. Make sure you don't lose the rear heel. Keep that rear foot connected, even as your antlers extend forward. 70% of your weight goes forward, 30% stays back. 70% of your attention goes forward, 30% connects down to the rear foot and the heel. Okay, once more on each side. Great. Okay, let's run through the whole sequence from turn and strike with heel, both brush knees, low punch, and up to ward off right. So you've just turned, sink and kick, brush knee, brush knee, low punch, and ward off right. Again, and I want you to pay special attention to those 70-30s. Stepping with the foot exactly towards the front when you sit back, turning your foot to where it'll be ready to be the back foot of a 70-30. really squaring the waist, making sure that as you do this, you step with appropriate width and appropriate length. So, we've just turned, and go ahead. Stepping in the right place. Square. Left foot's a new back foot. Step in the right place. Square. Right foot ready to be a back foot. Step in the right place. Square. Left foot ready to be a back foot. And again. Great. So we spent a bunch of time in the last session on the walking 70-30s, on the final posture of low punch. And so there's some stuff left, specifically, what do you do with that fist? How does all of that work? And then how do you transition from low punch into ward off right? So I'm going to spend some time on getting the fist and getting everything angled correctly. First, let's real quickly review the final posture. So in low punch, it's a regular old 70-30. You sit down and you incline the upper body. Now, we talked about this on the last session. You don't want to arch the body, and you don't want to stick the butt out. So as you sit down and you incline, this is happening from the hips, and you want to still have this feeling of an upright vertical spine, even as you're slightly inclined. Then the fist is right here in front of your center line. So with all these fists, the part that we actually strike with is this front part of the knuckles here. So there's a line that runs from the forearm through to that part of the knuckles. That's what you're actually striking with. And so you want to have that aimed so that that's right at your center line. So when you get into low punch here, this part right here should be right in front of my center line. The other hand, the left hand, the angle should be the same as the thigh. So the left hand isn't at a different angle than the thigh. As you sit down, with time, you'll get to the place where not only are they parallel, but they're in a line with each other. This is aspirational, because when you sit down too far, you can lose the rear heel. So as you sit down too far, you can end up losing the rear heel. That should be one of those, sets off all of the alarms, all of the warning signs, sirens and flashing lights. When you find yourself and you lose that rear heel, you should notice, before you lose it, you should notice as soon as you start to lose contact, and that tells you that's how far down you can go. You don't get to go down further and then try to figure out how to push your heel down. So, depending on how far down you sit, you may or may not have the thigh and the forearm actually in the same plane, but you should have them parallel to each other as you do this. And then the last thing about this is that the fingertips come right to the front of the knee. So this is one time when we actually do a brush knee, as opposed to brush thigh, where you're not quite going to get to the knee. So the final posture, you got to have all those things. Then, what do you do about this fist? How do you get that to work right? So as I'm coming back here, I swing my fist forward, and when I sit down here, the fist falls into my hip pocket, and it's already aimed exactly where it's going to go. So it doesn't have to take a curve. When I come through here and I sit down, it's already aimed along the path it's going to go. It doesn't take a circuitous curve. And you can see what happens when I do a curve. Now the front striking part of the fist is aimed a different direction. And so this doesn't have my whole body behind it versus just coming straight on that line. So how do you get that fist into the right place? One of the things that people will do is cock their elbows and pull the fist back. So you'll end up with this kind of a thing where I've pulled the fist back. And this is, people do this in a lot of martial arts. It's a way to store some power and have it ready to push from the arm. But what it does, when you pull that elbow back behind the side-to-side center line, it forces you to engage muscles in the chest and the arm. And that's going to mean that tapping the earth's strength gets stuck there and doesn't come out. So it's really important that the elbow stay in front of, or at most in line with, my side-to-side center line, not pulled back at all. So let's do this transition again, and then we'll spend some time on how you actually get that to work. So start from the second brush knee, right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back, front hand deflects down, right hand rolls, shift forward, squeezing a fist, and sit down and catch it in your hip pocket. Make sure the forearm is aimed where it's going, and then low punch. And do that again. Brush knee. Sit back. Forward, fist swings. Sit down and catch it. Forearm is aimed where it's going. Low punch. Making sure you're square. Making sure the rear heel is connected. Making sure the left forearm is parallel to the left thigh with the fingers in line with the knee. Making sure the striking edge of the fist is right at your center line. Okay, now let's cock our elbows. So go ahead. Shift forward. And as you sit down, pull your right elbow back. And feel what that does to the chest, shoulders, arm. It probably changes the angle of my hand too. Now it's pointed out over there. And then see what it takes here to try to force your way to the final posture. So don't do that. Once more, trying to get it right. Right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back. Shift forward and sit down. Check your right forearm. Punch. So the trick here is if you cock your elbow, if you chamber the fist, you will end up doing that using muscles in the arm. So I'll end up pulling the fist back. Now, the fist is here in front of me, and then it's here, not in front of me, here by my elbow, by my hip. So how did that happen without pulling the elbow back? And so this is one of those places where it's about timing. It's about letting your arms swing and move freely and adjusting the rest of your body around it. So you don't have, if you force it, if you take it apart and make it go right, then you will build tension. What you have to do is let go and relax and let the arms just swing. And while they're swinging, you change the rest of your body. So what happens here is I sit back. As I shift forward, my arm swings, and then it's going to fall. And while it's falling, I arrange the rest of my body around that so that it falls to the right place. The arm doesn't know that that's where it's going. The arm is just swinging and swinging and swinging and swinging. And one of those times when it's swinging, all the conditions around it change so that when it falls to the place I want it to go without the arm getting activated, without the arm having intent of going there. It just happens. So I like to practice this by doing the swinging a bunch. And so we'll do that and then we'll work on the catching. Beth will face the same direction as you because you can see her arm swinging. I'll face the camera so you can see what's going on there too. So start out in the second brush knee, right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back. Okay, and now we're just going to pay attention to the fist, and I want you to just swing forward and back. Go forward and let the fist swing up, and then sit back. And go forward and let the fist swing up, and then sit back. While you're doing this, let the timing of sitting back be determined by the fist falling back. It swings up, it falls down, and you follow it. You put an impetus in motion, and then you follow it as it comes back. So you're not controlling the swing of the arm. You're letting it swing on its own time, and as it comes back, you follow it back. This should feel really nice. The arms and the shoulders can relax, and you're just swinging back and forth. Once more. You can take a break. So those of you who have worked on the damned arm swings with us will recognize this kind of motion. And it's really important to emphasize that you're not controlling the arm. You put the arm in motion, and then it comes back down. I often make an analogy to the game at the county fairgrounds where you come and you put a sledgehammer down and a disc goes up a tower and then falls back down. The motion, the impetus is the sledgehammer going down, and then everything else just happens. So as the disc goes up, it's using the energy that you put into it, and when it reaches its end, it just falls back down. It doesn't go up and accelerate, because you're not pushing it anymore. It doesn't go up and stop until somebody comes and pushes it back down, unless, of course, the game is rigged, which the games at the county fair probably are. But you want the honest game. You hit it, and it comes up, and then it comes back down. And so the fist here, as you're swinging it, here's the impetus, and it swings, and then it falls right back down. So if it speeds up, then that's like the disc speeding up while it's going up. If it gets stuck, and it doesn't fall back down, well, that's when you realize the game is rigged. So, not a rigged game. So just do this a little bit more. Start from the second brush knee. Sit back. Swing. Follow it as it comes back down. Get this as natural as you can. The impetus is shifting forward, and then you follow the arm as the arm falls naturally. Not controlling the arm as it comes back. Shift. Let the arm come back. Notice how soft your chest, your shoulder, your arm can be as you're doing this. Totally soft. And the arm falling down determines your timing for sitting back. You put it in motion, you follow it back. You put it in motion, you follow it back. You put it in motion, you follow it back. Once more. In motion, following it back. Okay, and so now here's the demanding part. As the arm is falling back, you have a lot to do with the rest of the body. So you've swung it up, and now it's just going to fall back down. Except that during that time it falls back down, you step, you turn your waist further to the right, and you make a place for it to fall here by your hip joint. So the arm is just falling. The arm just falls back down, and in the process of falling, everything around it changes. And so it falls into the place you want. So this is very demanding on your timing. That's why I like to swing a bunch of times, so that I'm aware of exactly how long I have for the arm to fall back. Because that amount of time that it takes for the arm to fall back is how much time I have to step, sit down, get myself ready for the punch. So let's do it a couple more times. We'll swing 3 or 4 times, and then I'll say, okay, do it. And when I say, okay, do it, the next time you have to get everything arranged so that you're ready to do the punch. So second brush knee, right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back, and now swing. Swing, watching it fall. Swing, watching it fall. Swing, watching it fall. Okay, this time, swing, everything changes. Brush knee. Sit back. Swing, watch it fall. Swing, watch it fall. Swing, watch it fall. Here we go. Swing, as it falls, everything changes. Once more. Sit back. Swing once, watch it fall. Swing twice, watch it fall. Swing a third time, watch it fall. Here we go. Swing, watch it fall. So that's worth practicing. And you'll need to do that a bunch of times and just work on it that way. Get everything moving, get it all loose. Watch what happens as the arm falls back. Watch for the tendency to stop it and pull it back. Watch for a tendency to force it back, and work on just the swinging until you'd stop doing that, until you're willing to let it happen. Then work on your timing. A lot of things happen at once there. So this is not a swing, bring the hand back, carefully place my foot, make sure it's in the right place, sit down, adjust where my hand is, remember my other hand. You might do that some along the way of figuring out the exact position you want to be in when you catch the fist. But when you do it, it is demanding, inexorable. You've got exactly this much time to get it right so that you can go into the low punch. So once you're actually doing it, there's no wiggle room. There's no room for error, and invest in loss. If you don't get it right, it's no big deal. You've got another chance next time you do it. So let's do this another time or two. We'll do the whole move, no swinging. Try to get the timing right. Right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back, shift forward, swing, catch, punch. Just come back into brush knee, right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back, swing, catch, punch. Once more. Right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back, swing, catch, punch. Okay, so one more thing, then I'm done. Beth will take over. And that's that the punch is out, not down. When I finish low punch, I'm not going down. And as I go into the final posture, I'm not sinking as I do this. The sinking happens at the moment of catching that fist. So when I do this, I swing, right here is the sinking. This, as soon as I put the front foot on the ground, that's the bottom. I'm not going to keep going down from there. So I exaggerated that. But there's a real tendency for people to swing, catch, and then as they're punching, they're sitting down. Now, what I want is I want the punch to go out. I want it to go that way. And that means that I've already sat down. This is the bottom. If anything, I might come up a little bit as I deliver the punch. I certainly don't go down, 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 down. And the direction of the punch itself is out, not down. So to get that, you really have to do all your sitting down while you catch the fist and then when you put that foot on the ground. So, here I swing, I catch, my front foot's not on the ground yet. I've got this much more down, and then from here, it's out. So let's do that another couple times, and then I'll turn it over to Beth. So from the second brush knee, right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back. Swing and catch. Sit down. That's the bottom. Punch. Brush knee. Right foot forward, left hand high. Sit back, swing, catch, sit down, bottom, punch, out, not down. Once more. Go ahead, swing, everything changes, punch. And when you get that feeling of punching out, not down, your gaze will go out. When I finish the posture here, I want my gaze out, not down. If I do the punching down, then my gaze will naturally go down. So I want it out. Now, I'm not like this. I'm not doing low punch. I do with my chin. But my gaze is out there, not down there at the ground. So, that's some stuff. And then the burning question of the hour is, what comes next? How do we get out of low punch? And Beth will cover that.
All right, let's do some more. Before I get into how we get out of it, I want to point out one more thing that I've been becoming aware of, and that's this moment when the fist swings and falls back and you catch it. If you just think about catching the fist, it might end up facing down. So here, if I'm just looking at the fist, now the fist is facing down, and I'm likely to do one of two things. Either end up punching down, which Lee was just talking about not wanting to do that, or giving a little bit of a cock to the wrist so that it comes out straight. But there's a better solution. And that is that the elbows are always a little bit weighted, like as if there's a little weight hanging off it, as if it's the pivot point of your arm. So in that case, when you catch the fist, let the elbow drop. Now you can have your fist ready to go straight out without having to have a little bit of a cock in the wrist, a little bend here, and it will still go where you want it to go. So it's not that you don't catch the fist, you do. It's exactly what we've been working on. But as you do that, make sure that the elbow doesn't go dead. See here, the elbow's going dead. I'm busy catching the fist, but the elbow went dead. I want to make sure that as it comes back and I catch the fist, that the elbow is still the weighted point of the arm, and then we can come forward with without having to have a little bend. Because remember, Beautiful Lady's wrist isn't just in this dimension, it's also not in this dimension. So you don't want the fist to get just a little bit cocked at the wrist when you do this. So, yeah. So let's do that again. Right foot forward. And let the arm swing. As you catch the fist, let the elbow drop too. And then you can even take a little look and see if you're a little bit pulling up on the wrist or if you're letting the wrist be flat. And then let it come forward. And no matter how low you go, it still wants to go straight out. Let's do it again. And it may be that you don't get very low. So I'm just here now. But it's still, it's still coming straight out. So don't worry about how low you go, because you need all this other stuff to be in place to determine your height. But do make sure that the arm swings, it falls back, the elbow is part of the falling back, and it comes out straight. So that's one thing. And then the burning question, how do you get out of it? So we've been shown this a number of ways, so I'm just going to give you the story of how we've learned this move. First, when we learned it from Jane and Baton, we would we would do this. They had us open the fist, sit back, and let the hands open out. So it was here and then here. And then you could get the hands up to ward off right. Then Ben came, and he watched us all doing that, and he said, "You just punched someone in crotch. Now you're leaving yourself wide open." So, like, well, yeah, he's got a point. You take your hands away, your center is completely wide open, and, the hypothetical crotch that you just punched is going to be kind of angry and want to come back at you. So, he told us to do this. He wanted us to sit right back into ward-off right hand position, which certainly is protective. But now how do you keep this alive as you come all the way through here? It's hard to keep it from becoming a static place that you just carry until you get to the final posture. Then Maggie had yet a different take on it. And she had us open the fist, so I'm still protected to a certain extent here. And as we come forward, there's an inflating of the arms so that they have somewhere to go when you come into the final posture. One of the keys to Maggie's version, and is a big part of what I love about doing it Maggie's way, which is the way that you can try them all, but I really suggest you invest some time in this one because I think it has the most dynamicism. One of the things that's so great about it is, so you do the punch, and where's your gaze? Your gaze is out and down. You're not holding your head up and looking straight ahead while you punch. At the same time, you're not looking down. Ben would tell us, opponent not come from ground. So you're not dealing with somebody right there. You want a wide gaze that's diffuse, and it follows along the line of the upright body. So you are out here, and your gaze is kind of a diffuse gaze out there, but you're definitely not looking up. So in the Maggie version, once we sit into the back leg and let go of the fist, and there's a sense of a ball of air here, your gaze is still down. And then as you come into the left leg, everything comes back up to the horizon, to being in the room again. And that's a really nice sense. So you've punched and you're looking out. You sit into the back leg, let go of the fist, turn to the corner. You're still on a somewhat downward gaze. And then as you come into the left leg, let everything come back up. Gather and ward off right. So let's practice that a few times. So from the last brush knee. And notice, pay some attention to the body upright and where your gaze is through this. So your gaze is still out in the room. Gather and drop. Now you're down and you're already looking down a little bit, down and out. You punch. The gaze is out. Just release the punch. Sit into the back leg. You can think of having a ball of air between your two hands. Gaze is still down and out. As you shift into the left, Let that have this feeling of inflation and bringing you back up to the horizon. Sink and step, and the hands start moving into position, and then you come into your final posture. Let's do that one again. Sit back, shift and swing, gather. Now you're down. Your gaze is out. Your gaze stays out. Everything expands. Gaze is up. Final posture. And so that way, your arms have some life. They have something to do all the way through. It's not the bend low version where from here, you're just carrying it. But there is some sense of protection that happens here. Once you open this fist, let it be here where it would be a protective. You don't have to, bring it like this, but it's here in front of the groin still. It gathers and then comes out. So let's do that whole sequence from we're standing on the right leg, we just kicked, we can get up ahead of steam and do it all the way to ward off right. Okay, and begin. Gonna fall over. Okay. Fist swings, you catch it, the elbow drops 2, you're down, your gaze is out, your rear heel stays connected, you sit into the back leg, let go of the fist, come up into the room, sink, step, ward off right. One of the nice things about this Maggie version is that you're actually looking in different places. We tend to do the form and pretty much our gaze is level, even. But when you're down, the gaze has to go down, and when you come back up, it comes back up. Another, just as a point of interest, the other place Maggie talks about the gaze changing is between the separates. So from here, when you step into this one, the gaze actually follows the hands. And she says you should be looking to the upper left corner. And then it follows here. And now it's a little bit down. And then it comes back into the level horizon-ish place that most of the gaze stays. So it's interesting to think about specific places where the gaze is going to change. I mean, squatting down would be another one, because obviously once you do this, your gaze is down there, and when you come back up, it's more up there. So that would be another place, and then when you come to here or to here, it becomes more level again. But it's interesting to note that the gaze has some variation from just always being level. So let's do that sequence another time, and just for fun, let's take it all the way to the next single whip so that we get to do a longer sequence. Try not to almost fall over this time, and go. where your heel stays connected. Swing, catch it, punch, out, sit into the back legs, still looking downward, coming up into the room, gaze changes too, and now let's just go through this whole sequence. Keep moving a little more. Great, rest your legs. So this low punch is a really challenging move. And I want to tell you two quick little stories about working with Ben Lowe and doing this move. One is that we had a workshop here in Boulder, and he had, the way he would traditionally do it, didn't matter how many people were in the room, he'd take you to the next posture, everybody had to hold it, and he'd come around and he'd adjust each person individually, and you were supposed to hold it the whole time, before he came to you, when he came to you, after he walked away from you, you were supposed to just stay there. I mean, sometimes you just couldn't, and you'd stop and take a break. But he kept yelling at you, no, come up, no, come up. So you really got this idea in your head that come hell or high water, you were not going to stand up no matter what. You were just going to be there. No. And, he'd walk around the room taking his time, going up to people and, smoothing their backs and pushing them down and doing all this stuff, adjusting them. And in the meantime, the rest of the room is standing there. Their legs are shaking. Everybody's dying. Well, one time there was somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody in the workshop who was standing near us, and he was losing it so badly. His whole body was shaking, and he started dripping sweat. There was literally a little puddle on the floor in front of him while he was standing there holding it. So I can't really do this posture and talk about it without thinking of this poor guy who was literally dripping sweat onto the floor. So that's Ben for you. But when we went to his camp, he wanted to, there were like 50 people in the room. And he decided he wasn't going to make every person stand there. He thought, this is too hard. I want to spend real time correcting everybody. And so he only did us one at a time. The rest of the room was, people were getting drinks and chatting and doing stuff. And he'd just go one person to the next. And one of the things he was really being concerned with was that the whole back was nice and soft and flat. Not, that your scapula, if your scapula were sticking out, he'd massage you and try and get the scapula to come back into a nice, soft, fanned out position. But so it was kind of interesting after having this experience of the guy just dripping sweat on the floor, that then the next time it was like, well, we're just going to do one person at a time and everybody else can just rest their legs. So there's two stories about low punch and Ben. Let's see, it looks like we've got time to do a whole form. So let's do that. And the difficulties of a move like low punch are just an extreme version of the difficulties of doing the form, period. So everything that you've explored here, the way that you don't ever want to pull your arm back, whether or not it's a punch, that you don't want to get yourself that feeling of pulling at the arms, that the arm really is aiming where you're sending it, and that it plays out, and that's how it gets there, rather than that the arms are going where you've memorized to put them, that the back foot has a good solid connection to the ground, that whether or not you're turning in your back foot, depending on which move it is, you will or won't, but regardless, that it always pivots on the heel and pivots just the right amount, or it's already been pivoted on the heel and is already the right amount, so that you can keep the heel connected all the way through the final posture, that your body stays upright, that whether you're doing a move that requires a little incline or not, you're still keeping the body upright, that your gaze is following your movements. All that stuff is still true, and we just have a lot of different positions to play around with it. So let's do a form. And begin. Step out. Now remember, you're going to let that arm swing, you catch it, punch out, let go of the fist, expand into the room. So, low punch.